We just went from snow to 85 degrees sunny weather. North Carolina for you. If you don't like the weather, just wait. At any rate, it's always perfect weather for answering questions that $5 or more supporters ask during the month of March. If you'd like to participate by asking a question this month for me to answer at the start of May, links are below. On Subscribestar, Hoploo asks, what is your take on the human action axiom? The axiom is simple. Humans act deliberately to fulfill their desires. This is what's known as rational action. Keep in mind that in economics, rational doesn't mean what it does in everyday life. Science makes no such judgments as to whether someone is rational or irrational. It just describes reality. And the reality is, even though the decisions we make might be irrational in the way we all would recognize, from an economic standpoint, they are rational because the person at least believes they'll fulfill one or more of their desires. Rational action is therefore not the opposite of irrational action, but random action or purely automatic action. The action isn't arbitrary, but guided by a constant evaluation of how we can move from a less desirable state to a more desirable one. Unlike the action of hydrogen atoms in a star, or rocks in a rock slide, or flatworms scooting along the bottom of the ocean, humans don't work based on a simple cause-effect basis. We are individuals who may make a decision differently from other people at that time, or even from ourselves at a different time. This isn't even unique to the Austrian School of Economics. Basically every school, with maybe one or two of the more pseudoscientific exceptions, recognizes the individual nature of humans and deliberate action and incorporates that into their theories. Notice that politicians generally don't like those theories. They like to pretend that the economy is a bunch of switches and levers that they can manipulate to do things like manipulate prices. That misses out on the fact that people act not just with cause and effect, but with intention. People have reasons for their actions, not just causes. Not only is it a myth that this is unique to the Austrian school, it's also a myth that the Austrian school derives this 100% a priori and doesn't use anything analytical to formulate or refine it. Nothing could be further from the truth. The basic principle is taken a priori, but Mises wanted it to analytically be true as well, bringing in empirical observations like time preference or the capital structure or business cycle theory. As far as other schools are concerned, the neoclassicals have a similar principle with utility maximization, but it's not quite as philosophically honest. Keynesians and post-Keynesians want to move away from it entirely in favor of empirical observations of aggregate behavior while ignoring the microeconomic effects that tend to topple their house of cards. Institutionalists go even further by saying that action comes from historically contingent institutions. To them, people act based on status and social pressure and believe that institutions can shape these influences and therefore get people to behave the way they think they should. The action axiom is both an important foundation and a very underrated correction to economic modeling. Whatever economic model you go with, you'll be more accurate the more you conform to this axiom and less accurate the further away you get from it. That's why price fixing, minimum wage, Pigovian taxes, stimulus spending, and all other such interventions are doomed to failure. Dickin Myanus asks in a long-winded way, what is your opinion on when and how long it will take for the AI hype train to cool down and for people to use AI properly? Based on how previous hype cycles went, it's usually about 10 years or so. So that would be about another 5 or 6 years from now. Think about the internet, a utopian frenzy brought on by the Fed-induced bubble of the 90s, where a lot of people said it was all perfect and wise, while others, like Paul Krugman and even Bill Gates, dismissed it as a passing fad. Then, after the dot-com bust, plus a little time for recovery, the internet became just a thing we use. Go through history. Radio, television, electricity, the printing press. Every major innovation all had their hype phase with their miracle pushers and their doomsayers. The pattern is usually about 10 years or so from breakthrough to integration. As the limitations of AI become more and more undeniable, the miracle crowd will die down. The doomsayers are trickier because fear gets clicks, and it helps people have a sense of identity. They are the ones with the truth, and they will save everyone else from the big evil whatever. Hell, you still have people pushing the flat earth for largely the same reasons. The jobs apocalypse isn't gonna last. You had this with computers as well. Computers were going to take jobs away from people. In reality, they enhanced jobs, made people more productive, and therefore worthy of higher pay, as well as creating completely new jobs that didn't exist before. You'll see the same thing here. I don't think anyone is going to truly be replaced by an AI any more than anyone was truly replaced by a computer. But you will see jobs transform and become more productive as people take a more rational approach to capitalizing on the benefits of AI. I know that AI will create new jobs, but I have no idea what those jobs will be. No one does, because they don't exist yet and won't until innovators have successes with them. But new jobs, both skilled and unskilled, are always a result of new innovations. My guess? The professional world will be first. Although we've been laughing at lawyers who got in trouble for using ChatGPT to hallucinate cases that don't exist, as AI becomes calibrated to the law and lawyers realize that you still have to do the normal checks you always do with a brief, they'll become a normal tool of their profession. Same with doctors, coders, analysts, insurance adjusters, and other professionals. The world of public discourse will lag behind because punditry thrives on doom and controversy. But that'll ebb as the drama the pundits need dries up and people stop responding to it. You'll always have the doomsayers, just as you always have the flat earthers, but they fade into irrelevancy. I'd give until 2030 for the professional world and 2033 or so for the pundits. The monkey wrench here is new capabilities that AIs develop that could reset the clock and start the cycle all over again. And finally, FunwithFacts asks, thoughts on the merger between Paramount and Warner Bros? The main thought is, I'm disappointed it wasn't Netflix. A merger with Warner Discovery would have been a perfect match for both. Warner had previously agreed to the deal, then reneged on it when Paramount offered a full buyout over what Netflix offered. Instead of fighting it, Netflix pulled out, wisely realizing that Warner's massive $33.5 billion debt was just too much for the price. We'll see if the shareholders like this deal or not. Currently, their stock is around $27.50 and Paramount is offering $31. So they'll make money, and stockholders might like that over continuing to have stock in a company with so much debt. What's interesting is the promise of this new combined studio to produce 30 films a year, more than one film every 2 weeks. Basically, everyone is wondering how that's even possible. How are they going to do that other than by cranking out slop? So if the stockholders do sell, it might be to wash their hands of the whole thing and they won't own stock in the new company. That could drive the price to the ground. Meanwhile, TV studios are clamoring for ways to survive because it turns out spending $10+ million on an episode on shows no one wants to watch because they're horribly written and they hate their fan base just isn't a profitable business model. The fact is, the studios have too much debt and too many streaming platforms. They'd have been much better off if they'd left it at the successful trio of Netflix, Hulu, and Prime. But no! They each had to have their own streaming service because my profit! Even though running your own streaming service isn't profitable as it turns out. It was only profitable before because tons of studios had their movies and shows on just a few services. The combined Warner Paramount will have about $80 billion in debt, more than any other media company has ever survived. I was doing research for this segment and I found that Fitch, as a result of the impending merger, downgraded Paramount Skydance to junk status. Not good. I think Starfleet Academy wasn't just a show that went woke and blamed the fans for its failure, a tactic we've all seen since the all-female 2016 Ghostbusters reboot. I think it's a canary in the coal mine. The only rating it even showed up on was number 3 on Paramount's own charts, then quickly fell off the top 10, replaced by reruns of Sabrina the Teenage Witch and The King of Queens. It failed to hit the Nielsen top 10 streaming charts even once. It's not that they had a flop, it's what they're doing in response to it, which is basically keep on going the way they have. That's not a good way to reassure your stockholders. Their stock is dropping like a stone, and it's under $10 as I write this, half of what it was 6 months ago. They're betting everything on this merger, that sheer scale will fix everything. But failure at scale is just bigger failure. Well, that's it for another month, so thank you so very much for watching. Comments for the comment god, shares for the share throne. Please hit like, subscribe, and the bell, and check out other videos on my channel, and like and share them as well. And please go to donate.bogosity.tv for all sorts of ways to support, including PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, cryptocurrency, or become a regular supporter at Patreon, Subscribestar, or Discord to get these videos early and ad-free and participate in live streams and AMAs like this one. Thanks again, and until next time, stay strong and be free.